Well, hey everyone, welcome to the Monday night live stream. My favorite time of the week, actually. I mean, it really is. I look forward to it every week. Every week I have fun thinking of cool subjects and reviewing them to some degree and then being able to talk about them with you guys on air. And tonight is kind of a special night because I'm really going to let you guys drive the conversation. We had a couple of things kind of fall through here as far as interviews go, so I didn't have really anything to be able to, you know, I don't know, refined it to bring you. So we're just going to have an open discussion with a bunch of Gen Xers, or maybe a little bit before, maybe a little earlier. Everyone's welcome, and we are just going to hang out and talk as long as the conversation will take us and carry us. So with me, as always, I got my friend Thrash Pondo Pons. How you doing, buddy?
Jazz hands, I'm doing well, by the way, in spite of, I guess you could only call a belated Friday the 13th effect.
Yeah.
Weird thing, my camera was failing, but I got that working. I can't
Oh,
find my Pat shirt. Sorry, Pat. But other than that, I'm here, and as long as my hot water heater doesn't explode, I'm going to stay on the air.
right on, right on. Well, you're having a Saturday the 14th effect. Oh no,
Um,
not a Saturday the 14th. Have you seen that movie, Saturday the 14th?
an old associate of mine actually worked on it. He did some of the special effects.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yes, I have seen it. In fact, I was just talking about who was the guy? The guy in it? What one of the co-stars? He's probably best known. He was in a Twilight Zone episode where he played a genie.
Mm. A genie.
A genie. Yes, he did an episode of Planet of the Apes, and I was just talking about him.
Oh,
But
okay.
he was in Saturday the 14th as well.
Well, I don't remember. I have not seen that show since, I mean, 80, probably 86 or something like that. So
When it
I
was
don't
in
know
the
when.
theaters.
Yeah, well, it came out also pretty quickly on like HBO or something, or maybe one of my friends had it as a VHS as well. That's definitely possible. But yeah, I remember laughing at that at that show and goofing on it and talking about it. Before we were on the air, we were talking about Robbie Ann McPherson. Hopefully she's okay, huh? Yeah,
My
she's been
hearts go out.
yeah, my hearts go out to them as well. But I think she's all right because she's actually been on on Instagram today. So I think she's okay, and she didn't mention anything. But I was saying I don't have the contact with her that people kind of think or assume maybe that I have. They were a whirlwind, as we were saying. The glitter. I wish the glitter boom girls were actually more a part of the interaction, but they seem to have been a whirlwind that came into our lives and just blew, and then out they go. So
Perhaps they'll
uh,
come back. Perhaps they'll
yeah,
come back.
I mean, I hope so. I hope so. I love their show and I love their attitudes as well. It was a lot of fun having them on our show and then having them on Dave's show and being over there. That was a lot of fun. I hope that they and I love their podcast, but they haven't put out a podcast in, like I said, 3 months. But their podcast and their podcast ideas are great.
But before his girl's over, I just want to say to all the folks out there
Oh,
in Buffalo who were touched by this tragedy, I'm very, very, very sorry, and we're all pulling for you.
yes, indeed. I'm sorry.
Take care.
I didn't mean to lighten the mood on a more serious note. Yeah,
Well, we were concerned about Robbie and hope she's
right,
okay
right.
emotionally, but again, there were a lot of people who aren't doing well today, and I just wanted that read into the record for them.
Right. Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Yes. Okay. Well, let's say hi to everybody who's in the channel.
Excellent. Let me just
And
grab my new cheaters, which I just bought. Let's see. Oh, okay, first off, we got Lance Chaffin who says hello. I highlighted the wrong one. Right here he says, hiya, fan and thrash. I think he meant Ian.
yeah, I think you did too.
Either that or fan of thrash. But I'm gonna err on the side of caution and
I'm
say
that
he was
too.
talking to
I'm
you.
a fan of yours. So,
Who isn't? Who isn't? Let's see. Skipping down. Daryl Johnson. Daryl Johnson's in the house
hey,
and said
Daryl, how you doing?
he said I had a Remo Williams weekend. We were talking about Remo
Mhm.
Williams extensively, and I'm glad you had a Remo Williams weekend. R.I.P. Mr. Ward. Skipping down to Oh, look who's here. Ken Wilkinson says,
How you
"Hi,
doing, buddy?
Lance." Hey, Ken, how you doing, man? Uh, oh, Tracy Ross Myers.
Hey, Tracy. How's it going?
She says, "Hi, guys."
Hi, Tracy.
John Collins, always friend of channel,
All right, John. How you doing, buddy? Glad to see you
says,
guys.
"Hi, everyone. What's up?" He's going to be joining Dave on Dave's live stream next week, I believe, isn't it, John? Congratulations, John. Looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool. Hopefully, you have a good time. I know you've popped on to like when he does he gives the URL for people to come into channel, and you've popped on there before. But that's going to be cool to have you on that show. It's going to be
Very
really.
much so. Kevin Davison says, "Hello there."
Hey, Kevin. Glad you could be joining us for this Monday night broadcast. Did you freeze? Or are you just looking?
I'm scrolling down. We're in the fellowship phase where
I
everyone's sort of
gotcha.
just
Yeah,
yeah. So.
yeah.
Oh,
Well,
Ken
just
Wilkinson.
go ahead.
Ken Wilkinson says, "Good evening, retro cereal."
Good evening, Ken Wilkinson. Well, I mean, everybody should know that I'm in touch with BK from BK on the Air, and he's going to be on the show. I don't know. I don't know when that'll be released because it'll just depend on when I interview him. So heads up on that, and I'm hopefully interviewing him sometime this week. And so the interview will be out, and then I want it to be out in time for everybody to digest it and come up with good questions, and then I'll have him on the Monday night. So he seemed to be up for both. I don't know if you listen to BK on the Air, but let me tell you, it's worth listening to. Totally. I mean, it is such a good show, and it's a radio show. So he's got the big money behind it. I mean, he can do things with the soundboard and things like that that we just aren't able to do quite yet here. I mean, he's just so I mean, it's a lot. So if you listen to the show, it's a lot of fun to listen to. It goes through trivia, it goes through I mean, all kinds of stuff. It's a lot of fun. Tune in.
Please. Daryl Johnson says, "Please hit the like button." He's become our
And
cheerleader lately.
yeah, yeah, for real. I'm very appreciative, Daryl. Thank you very much for thinking of us in that way.
Hungry Jerk is in the house. Says, "Just got home from a long day on a hot grill." Hello, Tom.
Hello, how you doing, buddy? A long day on a hot grill. Are you like a line cook or something? Or you know what I mean, like a short order cook? I wonder if he's a short order cook.
I'd
That'd
say
be fun.
something in food services would be my
Yeah,
guess.
I mean, hungry jerk, that makes sense. So,
Superblick's in the house, and Superblick says, "Glitter Boom girls are gone."
well, I don't know. I don't know if they're gone or not. I know they haven't done anything in 3 months. They haven't really even posted anything on social media for a while. I mean, I hope not. When somebody see the thing about podcasting, I was talking to Thrash about this before the show, and that is it's a very self-motivating thing. I mean, you kind of have to, because before it even pays off, I mean, it can be years and years and years down the line. There's a channel here called Religion for Breakfast, which I really like, and they're monetized recently. And he did it for like almost 9 years, just as a labor of love. And so you kind of have to. I mean, nobody's making you clock in. You don't have to answer to anybody, so it's kind of real easy to go. You know what? I'm just going to slip this week and not do it. So people who podcast and they're lower level podcasters, it's a self-starting, self-motivating job, and it can be for a long time. So I could totally understand. I mean, they have lives and they have jobs and everything that they just might not be getting to it. Just easier. It's just at this point in their lives. I I leave it open to them. I hope that they come back, and they're always welcome to come back on the show. So
Definitely. And Danny Staten says, "Greetings from South Carolina."
greetings, Danny. Glad you could be joining us this evening.
Mr. Led in the house.
Mr. Led.
He says, "Hey Lance, hi Tracy, hey Mr. Z, Kevin, Daryl, HJ, and Ken. I guess you and I are chopped liver now."
Doubt it. Dave.
Dave Clooney's in the house. Says hi, Mr. Lid, and I assume he means to us as well.
I'm sure he does.
I'm just being that guy. It's all I'm good at, so I have to keep in practice.
Right.
I believe that's all for the greetings at this time. Although I'm sure we'll get many, 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 many more.
If we get more and we don't miss it, then we will definitely acknowledge you in the group. So, yeah, look what I got over here. Look, I just wanted to show everybody that I got this new copy of the Remind magazine, and I won that on Dave's channel. I was really surprised because I've entered it like a dozen times. Well, he was giving it away. I mean,
I'm just being I'm being that guy. Yes, it's very nice.
And I was just, I mean, I never won it, so I was just like, I ain't gonna win it this time. My name came up, and I was super surprised about it. So this is this month's one. Remind, where are they now? It looks like it's a blast. It's got some trivia in there and everything. What we got going on?
Congrats. Mr. Johnny Collins says, Bob, I know you enjoy movies. Do you have a lot of the DVDs and still have the cases to them? I sadly got caught up in the zipper bag craze in the early 2000s and no longer have the majority of my cases. I learned that lesson in the early 80s, where a lot of people were discarding the boxes that their VHS came in, and we're getting like plastic cases and stuff like that. And I never did that. I kept them in their original packaging. And I did the same thing with the DVDs. I was afraid the DVD would scratch. So all my DVDs are in the original packaging, except for a couple of cases where the packaging snapped, faulty plastic, and I had to like make do with another case, usually from a DVD I had lost, and then I just like write a new title on the cover. But 99.9% of them are yes in their original packaging.
That's good. You still got a lot of them?
I have. It's somewhere in the hundreds, and I still watch them too. The Bridge, that which I call my man cave, doesn't have cable. It doesn't have everything except for a couple of outlets. So the only thing I watch in there is actually old DVD and VHS. It's become my viewing room. And let's see what else we got going on here. I just saw
I've got a lot of DVDs too. Oh, hey, back to go.
Yeah. How many do you have before we get back to back?
Not a whole. I mean, I got a lot. I mean, I got Friends on DVD there, and I mean, I've got a lot. I got a lot more than I watch. So these days it's just too easy to stream.
Kevin Davis says Back to the Future.
Yeah, I love Back to the Future. I got a couple of Back to the Future memorabilia here. I've got old Ed Grimley's falling, but I've got this copy of Back to the Future, and it's original, as you can tell. It's a VHS copy. It's one of those things that you got at the VHS store. You didn't. This was one of those things that you're talking about, Thrash. You didn't buy it and it looked like this. The video store bought it, cut the box, or however they do it. Is that how it works? Thrash, right?
Yeah, they take a straight edge and they literally cut the box into a wrapper and then slid the wrapper into that Mylar coating around the plastic box, which supposedly lasted longer.
Yeah, so that's cool. I also got 2 games. I don't know if you can see them. I don't know. They're back there anyway, but there's 2 board games back there. Both of them are really good board games too. But I don't think you're thinking of talking about my collection. I think you wanted to hear something about Back to the Future. Great movie. Go ahead.
I was going to say, yes, I love the first one. For some reason, I never quite enjoyed the second and third as much. They certainly put the time and effort in, but I think the first one was just such a timeless classic. It was almost one of those cases where it didn't call for a sequel, and therefore I never really warmed up to the sequel. It's sort of like the Disney classics. They were so timeless. To add to them sort of detracted from them, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they weren't supposed to be sequels, even though it ends on that sequel note. even though it ends on that thing, the first one, it comes to will be, and he
Mhm,
he goes, oh, now we're gonna go to the present where Doc
mhm,
shows up again.
mhm.
It really was supposed to be wrapped up. It was just a matter of that made so much dang money that they just kept wanting to do it. This is why in Back to the Future at the end, they both get in the car and take off. But in part two, now Elizabeth Shubert, same character, gets knocked out because they didn't know how to have her in the movie. So it wasn't supposed to be,
Ah,
it was not supposed to be are you following my logic? I'm not
I
sure I'm making
do.
a little,
Yes.
it was not supposed to be a sequel. It was supposed to be all tied up at the end. But because they made a sequel, they're like, well, we got to do something with his girlfriend. So all right, let's knock her out at the beginning. Because otherwise, why would Doc pick up both of them and take them there? So anyway, yeah, Back to
That's.
the Future was great. My favorite one was number two, actually.
Oh,
I mean,
really?
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Mine's got to be number one.
I mean, number one's a classic. I love it and everything, but I feel like number two just has more action to it. It's faster. It's like why I love Temple of Doom better than Raiders of the Lost Ark. I mean,
I can buy that. I
it's
can buy that.
faster paced. So, all right, what else we got
Oh,
here?
Dave Gloroni, I just want to say, says, hi, Ian C. and Thrash, and he apologizes. I was teasing, but thank
Ooh,
you. Nice to see you again as well. Zuberblick says, best 80s song was Let's Give It to the Boys. You might also include I Just Called to Say I Love You.
wow. Well, that's challenging. I don't know if I could put my finger down on the best 80s song, but I would have put it down far from those two songs personally. I mean, we all have our own taste in music. It's all cool. I mean, if those are the songs that you like, then those are the songs that you like, and I totally appreciate that. My tastes were just almost completely different. Could you narrow it down, Thrash?
Well, it was so funny. On one of my live chats, they asked me to do my favorite 80s one hit wonders.
Yeah, I remember that. But it was one hit wonder though. This is the
Yeah.
favorite 80s song.
The favorite 80s song of all time, either one hit wonder or from a megastar. That there's just too much to draw upon. For some reason, I always found Sunglasses at Night to be just a very catchy,
Yeah,
haunting, poignant, almost poetic song.
yeah.
Um, that being said, um, to be honest, if I had the song of the '80s, the way I see it, is probably "Photograph" by Def Leppard.
Oh,
Every
really?
time I
Wow.
think of the '80s, I think "Photograph."
Like if they were gonna do a montage in the movie and it was gonna be from the 80s, the background music would be Photograph, right?
Exactly.
I don't yeah,
It's
Photograph.
it certainly wouldn't be "Don't You Forget About Me," which they've been forcing down our
I
throats
know
in.
they have, but I mean
Right.
it was such a good song, and I'm sorry that they've kind of ruined it because I totally agree that they've overplayed it so much these days. But I mean it was such a good song. I loved that song.
I
Um,
suppose.
I think this is gonna surprise you, but I think I would have to choose out of all the songs that it's so hard to choose. I mean, for me, like Motley Crue Home Sweet Home was certainly a big thing for me at the time personally, but this is gonna surprise people. I think that I would choose Boys of Summer. I would choose Boys of Summer by Don Henley.
No, I can see that. I
Yeah.
can see that.
I think it's one of my favorite songs altogether, for real. It's one of my absolute all-time favorite songs. It would if I had to choose like an album or to go with me and not an album, but like if I could choose like top 10 songs and I was on a desert island, I think
Mhm.
Boys of Summer would have to be in there.
Um, there's something about Don Henley. Even the people who don't like him recognize his genius.
Hmm.
So I can certainly see you making a valid case for that. So I don't know. I'd probably, if I was going to pick a Don Henley song, though, I think my favorite is "End of the Innocence."
Oh
There's
yeah,
something
that's
about
a good
"End
one
of the
too.
Innocence" which just it
I
seemed to be like he was trying to write a song for the Gen Xers. He was trying to write a song for the '80s, and even though it was critical of it, I think he hit all the bases. So that's probably the one I would go with. But again, no wrong answer.
Yeah, no wrong. The only reason I mean I love "End of the Innocence." It's a great song, but I think that there's just something that is captured in the '80s about Boys of Summer for me anyway. That's kind of how I see it. I mean, if somebody told me that Age of Innocence was released in '92, I would believe you. I mean, there would be no, there wouldn't be any reason. But if somebody tried to tell me that Boys of Summer was released in '90, I'd be like, no, 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 no. That's an '80s song. I could just kind of hear it spot on. So anyway, but like you
Anyway,
said, personal opinion.
Cindy D says, I love the soundtracks to Footloose and The Woman in Red. The lesser known ones, Heaven Help the Man by Kenny.
Yeah. Let's go with this for a bit. Let's go with some soundtracks. Did you like Footloose?
I could pass on Footloose. It had some good stuff on it, but it was just a little too hokey,
Right.
feel goodish for
Right.
me. I love the movie The Woman in Red. In fact, I saw it in the theaters, but I
Is that
can't.
the Gene Wilder movie?
The Gene Wilder movie with Kelly LeBrock
Yeah.
in riding the crest of her success from Weird Science. And there was another. There were like 3 movies that all came out together that kind of made her a mega star. And I forgot the third one, but it was like boom,
I thought
boom.
I did. I don't even. I mean, I've seen it, but I don't even remember the music in that show.
Neither do I.
Well,
Neither do I. I did like the movie, but
mhm.
I don't. I can't think of any music from it. Of course, my favorite '80s soundtrack still has to be heavy metal. I think heavy metal had the best soundtrack of all time.
Yeah.
Um,
Good one. What about Trick or Treat? Did you ever listen to Trick or Treat with Fat? Remember that movie? Did you see that movie?
I
It had the
can't
kid from
place it.
Skippy, had Skippy from Family Ties, and he
Uh-huh.
idolizes this band, and then the lead singer of
Uh-huh.
the band kind of comes through and he kills people or something like that. I can't. It's
I
been a
can.
while since I've seen it, but the album, I mean, was really cool. It was by Fastway, and the album was just spot on for heavy metal. Man, it's good to check
I
that out.
I can not place it to save my life. I
Really?
did like
Okay.
Fright Night, and Fright Night had an amazing soundtrack. If you want to go with horror movies specifically,
Mm.
um, I really like the Fright Night soundtrack.
Mm.
But
I'd have to say for me, like an iconic soundtrack. I mean, we don't have to just go '80s. I mean, you can go '70s, '80s, '90s. We can do whatever decade that fits growing up Gen X. Um, but that said, I'm gonna pick an '80s song. Pick an '80s one. Uh, uh, Probably like Pretty in Pink was good. I'm almost any John Hughes movie's good.
I know that they were almost like rock operas, weren't they? Just with more
Yes.
dialogue.
Right.
I would like to say the Big Chill soundtracks, but the problem with adding that to an '80s list is they're great, but they're all music from the '60s and '70s. So you really can't count them as the sound of the '80s because even though they were
Right.
iconic, they weren't really '80s music.
Right.
You know. But there was some great soundtracks in the '80s, that's for darn sure. Oh, Kenneth Wilkinson says, I have most of the classic Doctor Who on DVD. Were you into Doctor Who at
Awesome.
all, Ian?
I was not. I can't speak authoritatively on the subject. I never jumped on, and I'm not on now. And it's not that I dislike it or anything, like I've seen it and disliked it. I've just never been able to get into it. So you'll have to be the total authority on the Doctor Who stuff for the show.
I was a huge fan, particularly of the Tom Baker years. And it's funny how many people, when they talk about classic Doctor Who, I mean, there was William Hartnell, there was um, John Pertwee. But when people think old school classic Doctor Who, they do think Tom Baker by and large. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I actually got to meet the man in a sci fi convention in Boston in 82, 83. Somewhere buried in my collectibles is because he wouldn't sign autographs. The line was just way too long, but he would shake your hand and give a personalized photograph. And there's a picture of me, and he's like 6'5" too, so he's like hunched over so he can get a shot with me. There's a picture of me and Tom Baker, and a stagehand who was doing security, kind of peeking his head and photobombing us somewhere in my collection. Someday I'll dig it out. I'm gonna make that my new screenshot. I'll use it as a thumbnail. But yeah,
That's awesome.
when I talk Doctor Who, I definitely Tom Baker. Oh, and John Collins reminds us, and I will be on Dave's live stream this Thursday night. We were talking about that before. We are so looking forward to it.
Yes,
I
that's
will be
awesome.
there with bells on.
I'll be there in spirit.
I'll be there for the two of us. Trey Rosmeyer said, I loved My Bodyguard with Matt Dillon and Chris Makepeace.
Yeah, great shows. Or great show, sorry, yeah. My Bodyguard.
Just an amazing movie. In fact, it's one of my wife's favorite movies because she had kind of a crush on Baldwin, who is not a relation of the other Baldwins. It's
yeah.
a coincidence.
Right,
Adam Baldwin, I think his name was.
Yeah.
But
he still is. He's an is. He's not gone, and I don't think.
Well, I'm just contextually.
Yeah.
Just super cast. Amazing script. Everyone in that movie was at their best. Even Ruth Gordon, who I think has like 2 scenes. She just knocks it out of the park. And you know who else is in that? She has a very, very small part. She plays Joan Cusack's best friend.
Yeah.
Like a 17-year-old, I think she was. Flashdance. Jennifer Beals.
Oh, okay.
Jennifer Beals is in it too. She, I guess, was actually dating Adam Dillon at the time, so she had a small role. Before we go too far ahead, who didn't have a crush on her in Flashdance?
Oh yeah. I loved My Bodyguard. The idea of the whole thing with My Bodyguard, with the kid rising up and beating his own bully and doing it on his own, and then and having the smarts to get a bodyguard too. I mean, those are the stories that related to me so well that I think they shaped my life in some degree, because I mean, I practice martial arts. It's been part of my life, and I can't escape the fact that, of course, part of what fed into that was the entertainment. I mean, and My Bodyguard certainly helped fill that, like not being afraid, being empowered and stuff. So great show. Absolutely great movie. I shouldn't say show, it's movie.
You do that a lot. Show and movie is synonymous with you.
I know. I don't mean it though. I mean, I know better. It's just like a habit to say it.
We know what you mean. We've known you long enough. We know what you mean. Kevin Davis says, I did think that the 80s had bad sci-fi.
What? The best sci-fi movie came out of 1980.
Throwing down the gauntlet, aren't we? You first, because I get a couple good ones on this one, but I want you to go first, Dan.
Well, I mean, of course, the first thing that comes to my mind is Empire Strikes Back. It did have some bad movies. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. That one with Molly Ringwald in it was pretty terrible, but good. Terrible good. But I mean,
the 3D one.
Yes.
Adventures in the Forbidden Zone or something.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That was pretty.
It was pretty bad. But most 3D movies were bad because it wasn't about the script and the acting. It was all about the 3D imagery.
Well, I mean, okay, so let's think about his statement. It says, I did think that the 80s had bad sci-fi. Okay, so that statement of itself, I mean, I have to agree. I did think that the 80s had bad sci-fi, but I also think that the 80s have terrific sci-fi.
I agree with you. It ran the gambit. In fact, I think, and I will make a case for this, I'm throwing down the gauntlet. I believe the quintessential 80s movie is Repo Man.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. If there's one movie that just captures the feel, the essence, the zeitgeist of the 80s, it's Repo Man. And Repo Man is, without question, a science fiction film. So you have to at least afford the 80s the understanding that some of that sci-fi was good. There was certainly plenty of schlock, and I'm a huge fan of schlock. Some people say zombie movies. All zombie movies are schlock because it's such a silly concept. I'm willing to grant that. Some of the best zombie movies came out of the 80s. So if there's a thing such as good schlock, I could make a valid case for it. But let's just say the '80s ran the gambit from the worst to the best.
Yeah, right on.
Mhm.
All right.
Oh, these people should have been on your Walter Hill show the other day. Train
I
North Minus says I
know.
like 48 Hours, the first one.
Yeah, I like 48 Hours one. Gritty movie. Actually,
Oh yeah,
absolutely great. I mean, it's kind of interesting because they were talking about that over on the action movie Elite when I was on it for about what 15 minutes.
15, 20 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was on it for about 15, 20 minutes, and there was just a problem here. So I jumped off and had to take care of some things here. But we were batting back and forth about this was a gritty, kind of ugly movie, but it was super popular. I think it helped. I think it was one of the pieces that helped Eddie Murphy into the limelight and
It made
become
him a
this.
three-dimensional character. He had
Right.
made movies before, but they always light comedies, maybe with action.
Yeah.
But he always played a light character. This, he was a gritty badass, a
Yeah.
funny one, but a gritty badass.
Yeah. Well, we were comparing it to the difference between that one and Beverly Hills Cop. And like,
Say,
I mean, Beverly Hills Cop is so sleek and smooth and,
great
friendly and
soundtrack.
stuff. Yeah. Axel F. And yeah.
Mhm.
Uh, um, but man, I like 48 Hours better. I think 48 Hours is a more gritty, realistic kind of show. I know you didn't ask which one I like better, but
But I'll agree with you. I'll agree.
yeah.
The scene where Eddie Murphy goes into the honky tonk bar
Uh-huh.
and he's trying to intimidate the the people therein. I don't want to say anything too inflammatory. That's a really amazing scene.
Hmm.
And the fight scene between him and Nick Nolte.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was afraid I got the actor's name wrong. It's a really well choreographed fight scene.
Yeah.
So I mean, for what was supposed to be a sort of comedy buddy flick, it actually had some really intense moments in it. And you can thank Walter Hill for that. So definitely, if I had to pick between the two, I love Beverly Hills Cop.
Hmm.
But I would have to give it to 48 Hours, the first one.
I think it's a better film, and it's more like you're saying, realistic. Now, does that necessarily mean that that would be the one that I could watch? I could sit and actually have a Beverly Hills Cop marathon. I couldn't
Oh,
have a 48 hours marathon. That's one of those things you're like, oh man, I gotta need to take a rest. So, all right, go ahead. Let's go with the next thing going on here.
Lance Shaven
Oh,
says the
look,
Warriors.
I'm gonna let you take this over here because I know you have so much to say, and I have so very little to say about it. So it was really not one of those films that impacted me. And I know I'm gonna say, but I mean, I know it's a great movie, it's awesome, and people it was a rite of passage for a lot of people, but for me, it was just over. So I'm gonna let you take it away because I know you're a big fan and you have a lot of theories about it.
I do. I do. While I'm on the subject, I just met a friend for an old friend. I've known this guy for 40 years. We went to school together. A young man by the name of Ted. I freelance write articles for him on his online magazine, Gamelon Magazine. Check it out, folks, please.
Cool.
Gamelon Magazine. But he actually wrote a great article about the Warriors on that magazine. Warriors is well, it was one of our favorite movies when we were kids. It's still one of my favorites. In fact, I was just watching it not too long ago. I actually do a post on my YouTube channel. I'm just going to give the premise here. I'll accept any arguments in my channel. It's just called Warriors Retrospect with a Game Changing Theory. I have a theory that for the entire movie, the principal villain, Luther from the Rogues, he's pulling a Whitey Bulger. He's actually working for the cops the whole time. Check out my post. Tell me what you think. But there's so many other things about it. It's an amazing gang film. It's an amazing action adventure. It's loosely based on Greek mythology. It's just Ted was telling me the other day. It manages to even work in a little class structure because the different gangs that they run into as they travel homeward from Troy all represent different social levels. Some of the gangs are real bargain basement. Some of them are fairly affluent, and it's a really interesting way of looking at it. So I could watch the Warriors in a marathon up with some other Michael Beck films, and of course James Remar. I could watch Cotton Club many times, but anyway, with the Warriors is just a great film. Let's see. And thank you for bringing it up, Lance.
Yes, thank you, Lance. Awesome.
Oh, here's a good one. Dave Cloney says favorite '80s song, "Eye of the Tiger."
Eye of the Tiger, Survivor. Right? Is that Survivor? Eye of the Tiger? Yeah, it
Yes, no,
is.
you're right.
Okay,
From
yeah.
Rocky 3.
Yeah, Rocky 3. There's some interesting stuff that going on about that song. So Sylvester Stallone called the lead singer of Survivor, and he said, "I really like your music, and I would love for you to do the theme song." And the singer didn't believe him, thought it was a joke, and hung up on him like 3 times before Sylvester Stallone convinced him that it was really him and this wasn't a joke. Yeah.
That is priceless.
Yeah,
Really?
I love the Eye of the Tiger theme song. I used to play that in my Walkman, and I used to ride
Mm.
around on my BMX dirt bike, and I used to pretend that it was the theme song to this is gonna get real, boyish weird. But I used to pretend like I was, like in like a space BMX bike, and I had
I'm with
missiles and
you.
stuff like that. And it was the theme song to like kind of like my own movie in my own head as I was driving around on my bike. I don't know. Does that relate to anybody or am I
Well,
nuts?
it sounds like you're mixing the soundtrack to Rocky 3 with Megaforce, which also had Michael Beck in it.
Right.
So the pieces are all there, Ian.
Okay.
I can certainly see where
No,
you were
I'm just
going.
saying, does anybody else like do that? Like create kind of a movie in your own mind? I don't know.
Oh, constantly.
Yeah.
I still live in my own little sketch comedy show. Yeah.
That's
Although,
classic.
40 years ago it was actually like comedy. Now it's more of a dark comedy, but tragic comedy. But oh, Kevin Davis says I was a huge Def Leppard fan.
Yeah, yeah. I have to say that Def Leppard for me was a kind of a love-hate relationship. I like Pyromania, and I to this day can't stand Hysteria. And I know they've done that stuff, since then, but I don't listen to that stuff. I stopped listening to that stuff back at the hair metal phase. As a matter of fact, some people call the mullet, you know what a mullet is, I'm sure. But some people call the mullet the Joe Elliott.
I
That's
did not know that.
yeah,
Really,
yeah.
I did
Joe
not know that.
Elliott. If you
Well,
say, "Hey, give
yeah,
me Joe Elliott,"
huh? How about
So
it?
anyway,
How about
his no, not Hysteria. Diver. No, now I've totally forgot the name. Thrash, help me out here. The one with photograph on it.
Oh, Pyromania,
Pyromania. Pyromania is a classic '80s album for sure. Go ahead.
definitely, definitely. Lance Chafin said Don Felder, "Take a Ride" from the heavy metal soundtrack.
Cool. Right on. No, I thought you were going to comment on the last thing though.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. You can move on. But I
Oh,
mean,
I
I
already
thought
covered
you
the
were going
fact
to.
that I was a huge Def Leppard fan. I thought that went without saying.
Okay. All
I
right.
remain a Def Leppard fan, if that helps.
Did you like Hysteria?
Oh yeah, no, I liked Hysteria.
Because
Pyromania is my favorite, but
people always get really mad at me when I tell them I don't like Hysteria.
oh,
Yeah.
I like it. But I mean, again, to own their each, you know.
All right.
If people don't, I'm okay with that.
I no,
Um, Lance Chavin says the Top Gun soundtrack.
not a fan. Wasn't a huge fan.
My little sister had that on cassette tape, and she used to play. Now I liked it myself actually, but I remember her. We'd be like driving somewhere in the car, and she would just be playing it like in like a loop. I at one time I knew every song on that soundtrack.
Like that you didn't want to know. I
Well, I like the main songs, but there's a lot of songs that you couldn't even place what scene that song was in, and but she knew them all. That's sort of I was like that actually with the Flashdance soundtrack.
Oh,
I even knew
really?
the songs that nobody knew.
You were into the deep cuts.
Precisely,
Right on.
precisely. Uh, Mr. Led says Metallica. One is on my desert island list.
Cool. Yeah, one's a great song.
I
Really
was
good.
I was just talking with somebody about that. In fact, if you like covers, There's a group. They do originals as well, but they do a lot of covers. And they're called 5 to 11, and they have a cover of one that is outstanding. I highly
Cool.
suggest you check it out.
Yeah,
Um,
Metallica, one of the best defining bands of the late '80s, at least. I mean, I know they got started earlier, but they just got
in the
super
70s, yeah.
popular. Yeah. All right.
Trey Myers said, "I also liked Depeche Mode."
Yeah, Depeche Mode was okay. I mean, they got some really good hits. Wasn't not terrible fan of hmm that poppy of music. I mean, that it was kind of weird. It was like I see like new wave, and I see elements of new wave in a in a band even like Nirvana, but I also see elements in a new wave in a band like Depeche Mode. And there you couldn't even be two different bands, you know. But I don't know.
Seriously.
Depeche Mode was okay. I didn't love them. What about you? Did you love them or did you?
I wouldn't say I loved them. I dated a girl who loved them, so I listened to them a
Oh
lot.
well, there you go. If a girl gets involved, then that's all there is to it.
But they had some great tracks. I certainly appreciated the music. Skip Rock Jr. is in the house.
Hey, Skip.
Hello, Skip. And he says The Big Chill, movie or soundtrack. Great stuff.
Yeah,
Were you a big fan of The Big Chill, the movie?
no, no.
Really? I was. I was.
I
My
was
mom and I used to watch it
think I
together.
saw it like I think I've seen it like 2 times, and I was just like I wasn't a fan either time. So, anyway, well, we can move on from there. I
We,
just
we we certainly will. We certainly will. Um. Oh, here's a good one. Lance Jeffin says, "Hard to kill Thrash." Yes, it is hard to kill me. Many
It
have
is
tried. I'm still here.
yeah, I don't know, I don't quite get it. Is it hard to kill Thrash or
He's
hard to
he's
kill
he's he's suggesting the movie Hard to Kill
and
to me.
he's giving it to you. So
Like Hard
let's
to
I mean,
Kill, Thrash.
I wanna give it to you. It was thrown at you from the audience, so you take it, and I will say a couple things afterwards.
Not a huge Steven Seagal fan, I must say. I can't separate all the hideous things I hear about him in real life from his performances. Not to mention, he was never that great of an actor. To anyone who wants to fight me on this, I highly suggest you see his infamous SNL appearance. And listen to what some of the people who were on it with him say about him. That being said, I have seen Hard to Kill. I would say best of a bad lot. Is that fair?
Yeah, yeah. You know what? I just thought of something. I thought maybe he was telling you about because it's Kelly LeBrock's in that, and he said, "Oh, those 3 films," and
Oh,
he's
was
saying,
that the
"Hard."
real?
Is that and he said, "Oh, I can't remember that 3rd film,"
I
and
think
then
she was already an established actress by that point because by the
okay,
time they were trying to make her and Seagal a power couple, everybody
right.
knew her.
I
There were three. I mean, Weird Science was like that's the one that like boom. But then The Woman in Red, and there was one other film that she did that it was like, man, have you seen the woman in that movie? And I'm hesitant to go on Wikipedia at this point, but you know what? For right now, I will accept Hard to Kill as a Kelly LeBrock film because I
yeah.
certainly enjoyed her performance more than his.
I'm not a Seagal fan either. I mean, his first 4 or 5 movies were actually really good, and Hard to Kill was a good action movie and had a lot of really cool choreographed taquido in it. Not a fan of Steven Seagal. I just, and everything after that. I don't know. Everything after uh, Under Siege 2 kind of just gets worse and worse. And some of them are more okay than others. But yeah, not a fan of his martial arts, not a fan of him, really. So that's my take on it. Whatever you meant by hard to kill. So
Tom and Hungry Jerk says CraftCon will be a blast this upcoming weekend.
I have no idea what that is.
CraftCon?
Craft. That's go ahead.
That
Yeah.
yeah, that's the upcoming fan of the Croft Brothers TV shows coming up this weekend. Pat's going, Dave's going, bunch of people are going.
I'm not going. I wish I was.
Well, I'm on the other
Um,
side of the planet, so I'm not going. But I'm looking forward to it, and through proxy, I will be there in spirit, if not in corporealness. Dan from Daily Dan's The Good Stuff says, "Oh my God, don't forget about Rocky Horror Picture Show. How could one?"
Yeah, I don't know. So I know it's iconic. I know it's classic. I'm gonna say that I've only seen it maybe twice. That's it. And I never saw it at the theater. I never went to. I only saw it on VHS. So uh, I know I'm an idiot.
You're not an
I'll take
idiot.
my
You just
punishment.
you lose every if you don't see it in a theater full of predominantly stoned young people at midnight with people throwing rice and toilet paper, you miss the entire experience. And I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm very very sorry. I have seen it on videotape, and it's just like I'm like you just lose the whole thing about that movie is the participation.
Right, right.
Yeah,
No, I
and
know, I know. I wish I would have. I mean, it would have been fun to be able to do, but I just haven't been
they didn't
able to
play it
do
in
it.
Utah so much. Yeah, well, you have to find theaters that
I,
did
you
it.
know, I was still, yes, no, they didn't play it when that was a big thing too, particularly when doing that was a big thing. That wasn't in, there was nowhere in the town that I lived or a town 100 miles of where I live. You'd have to go to Vegas or something like that. So, and I was still pretty young when that was like a thing, like when at its heyday. I'm sure they still do it today, but you know what I mean? When it was on Channel 4 News and stuff, people going, "Oh my gosh, look what these people are doing."
Well, with the decline of midnight movies as a whole, because it's a midnight movie situation, so when they stopped doing midnight movies, it kind of went away. I don't think I've heard it even talked about since '89, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Now that they probably did have it in the '90s here and there, and maybe conventions and reunions, but the heyday was actually I would say late '80s when I was in college. It was
Hmm.
when it was probably peaking. Oh, here's a good one. Mr. Lid says, "I love Jesus Christ Superstar, the movie and the soundtrack."
I'm totally not going to say nothing. No, I don't like Jesus Christ Superstar. I'm sorry, I don't like the movie, and I don't like the soundtrack. So,
You know, forgive me for forcing the issue. I had another friend who was also a pastor who did not like that movie. Am I going to go out on a limb and say it's probably for the same reason?
I would imagine. I just, there, there's this was the end at what's called the second wave Jesus movement, where the attempt was that the first wave started back in the late 1700s, early 1800s, but basically it was an attempt to separate the Jesus of faith from the Jesus of history. And it started with what's called you force the issue, so I'm going to lay into it. It started with what was called German rationalism, and it was pre-archaeological, and basically they just thought about things. It was a school of rationalism where they basically empirically said, if you can think it, then it must be true. So before anybody put a spade in the ground and looked at any manuscripts or anything like that, these people thought, well, this is the way it must be, that there must be a distinction or a separation from the Jesus of history, from the Jesus of faith. And there's been two of those movements, and Jesus Christ Superstar is is an outcome of that. It's like, okay, he's just a man, he's just a guy. They don't want to deny Jesus existed, but he's just a guy. So anyway, how long did I go on with that one there?
No, no, not long. But I was wondering if it had something to do with it's being seen as minimalizing of the true biblical
Yes, well, to some
story.
degree, yes, for sure, for minimizing of it. um I wouldn't say minimizing it of it because of the music per se. It would just be the content of what's going on. I would say, of course, it minimizes the person of Christ, which would minimize the work of Christ. But anyway, I mean, yeah, it just wasn't I'm not a fan of it. But all right,
There we
back
go.
to
Superblick says, "Hated Doctor Who with the scarf." I'm assuming you mean Tom Baker and
that
curse
was
on
your.
you.
I don't have anything to say.
That was the one who was my favorite. But again, free country. Oh, but back on the plus side, Trey Minor says, "I have met Tom Baker too, and I have a picture with him too. Tracy, were you and I twins separated at birth? It's uncanny the number of points of similarity you and I have. You're far more attractive than I am, but still, it just you and I seem to have a lot of things in common, and it's very it's touching. Let's see.
Yeah,
Who else
well,
are we here?
yeah, I'm still waiting for those pictures of you and John Cusack. And let John Cusack know about this because I am a huge fan, and let me say that on my bucket list, like if God ever gives me enough grace to make it here, like make it on YouTube or whatever. One of my goals in life is to actually work out with John Cusack because he's like a 6th degree black belt.
I had heard that. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So that's like one of my all-time dream goals is to sit down with him, have a conversation. It's on my bucket list. Let's put it that way.
Skip Rock Jr. says to Tracy Arthur Myers, specifically, I watched the Sunstrom / 9G crossover yesterday. It was actually from 2 years ago, I believe he's going on to say. I am so bummed. 9G had another live stream yesterday, and I missed it. I found out the next morning, and I was very disappointed. 9G did some great stuff as well. Oh, are you familiar with 9G?
Yeah. I'm limitedly. Dave introduced me to him, and I went over there. I actually had wanted him on the show before, but he's the kind of guy who probably gets a million emails a day, and so I think I just got lost in the shuffle, and I didn't push it either. So I'd still love to have him on the show at some point.
Oh, he's great stuff. He's great with like the nostalgic TV and stuff. But I think you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. He's so busy. Pardon me. He can't even respond to all the people on his comment section.
Right. You okay there, buddy?
I think I'll live. I just lost the ability to breathe for a second.
Okay.
Number one dude in the house.
How you doing, brother?
Ian Thrash. Hello, fellows.
Good to see you.
Kevin Davis says, I thought that Top Gun was overrated.
I agree. I mean, they're bringing it back, right? But I mean,
a sequel from 40 years ago? I mean, is that really necessary?
I don't know if it's necessary.
Are we
or
even?
not.
Oh my God! Are we even that invested with the character?
People. Well, it's enough. It's enough for them to take a risk on it to spend all that money. But I mean, I wouldn't be. I'm not going to be going to it. I never saw it. Did you see Top Gun in the theaters or no?
I saw it in a drive-in with a girl I was absolutely in love with, and sad to say, we watched the movie. But I did like the movie.
I didn't ever see it in the theater. I mean, I only saw it on VHS. So yeah, I think it was a little overrated. Which is funny because before I came back here to do the show today, I was watching Hot Shots.
But so you like Hot Shots, but you weren't a big fan of Top Gun. That's irony there.
Look, I was not a big fan of Tom Cruise until Far and Away. But all those 80s movies he did, I didn't like. But after Far and Away, I actually started enjoying his movies.
He never came back from War of the Worlds. If I've ever seen a more phoned in performance, it was in War of the Worlds. I thought that movie had such potential, and he's so.
You didn't like War of the Worlds?
His War of the Worlds, no, I despised it.
Really?
I despised it. In fact, if I ever have the energy and am willing to risk saying that I stole somebody's concept, I want to do everything wrong with War of the Worlds, the Tom Cruise one. Particularly, I mean, first of all, the chemistry he had with the kids I thought was non-existent. He's supposed to be playing this loving father, and they might as well have just been two kids he picked up along the way. Right down to the fact, okay, he raids his house for food while they're trying to become refugees. That I get. He goes to his ex-wife's house to hide, and this is that great little, which they never really exploit, the subplot. The aliens hit the working-class neighborhoods, but skip over the wealthy people's neighborhoods. But he holds up at his ex-wife's house, and he's trying to get her to eat the food that he brought, and the big joke being she has a peanut allergy, and all he brought was peanut butter.
Yeah.
They're still at the ex-wife's house. She never lost power. Go into her fridge. I'm sure
Yeah.
the kid has food there, and he doesn't think of that. I'm like, he's playing a moron. And it's just so it wasn't even the fact he was a fish out of water. He's playing an idiot. Um, the main character in every incarnation of War of the Worlds I've ever seen, the main character has to be a really strong, iconic man of action who's sort of again he is a
There's
fish out of water, but he manages to cope with this. Tom Cruise, I think Polly Shore could have pulled it off better. And yes, that
oh.
was an insult. And
Ah,
if
and
and I
speaking of Polly Shore, we let's not be too hard on him. Anyway,
no,
go
okay,
ahead.
I won't. But one more point, and if that weren't bad enough, you know I'm a huge, gigantic, colossal World War II buff. When I saw him play Stauffenberg, it
Yeah.
was it was downright cringy. I was just kind of like, oh. The only good scene, and that with well, I got to tell you, some of the supporting characters I thought did a very good job in the parts they were playing. In fact, the way, and this is even from me, I heard that put best. One critic said the only bad thing about uh, the Lion's Den, the Tom Cruise movie about the plot against Hitler, the only bad thing was Tom Cruise playing von Stauffenberg, which is ironic because he was the one who really pushed to have the movie made. The
Hmm.
only good scene in the whole movie is when one of his superiors forces him to salute, and he takes the prosthetic arm off and gives the Nazi salute without his full arm as a
Mm.
way of saying, well, to you. I thought that was actually done very well. The rest of the movie, I'm like, you could have replaced Tom Cruise with a cardboard cutout with no loss of action. So I, I'm sorry, I really got on the soapbox there. I want to
No, it's
apologize.
okay. I get it. I mean, I was on the soapbox a little bit about how I didn't like Top Gun, but I mean, we get on these soapboxes from time to time.
That's how I
But
get started on Tom Cruise. Wow,
right, right.
this
But
is where we
hey,
came
the whole
in.
thing with Pauly Shore, though, like I know he gets Razzies, he did terrible movies and stuff, but honestly, he's to some degree, it's like, gosh, he's a victim of his own success.
All
I
right.
mean, he tried to capture that '90s surfer vibe. He did it really well, but it just went in and out like that quick. You
Well,
know?
his mother owned
Yeah,
the whole Carolyn's comedy thing, so that's what got him started.
yeah. The
So
Comedy Room. I think is it called the Comedy Room?
Yeah,
In
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
and that's sort of got him that springboarded him into the business. So, but I suppose we shouldn't be too hard on him.
No, I actually really enjoy his movies. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a few of them because they're on T. They're just. I'm telling you, I know they're not good movies, but I mean they're just interesting enough to keep your attention and you'll blow through an hour and a half watching Son-in-Law. It's just enough, and if it's on TBS or something like that, you just killed an hour. You just killed 2 hours right there. So.
Dilly Dan's the good stuff says another soundtrack I loved was Lost Boys. There was some
Couldn't
earlier
agree with you
talk of Lost
more.
Boys in the earlier in the comments section. I meant to get to it. I must have glossed over it. But let's give a shout out to Lost Boys.
Shout out! Yay! Woo! I'm gonna open this.
I know you don't like horror films, but did you like Lost Boys?
Yeah, yeah. I like Lost. I mean, yeah, that's a classic. And some of the horror films kind of fall outside my paradigm, and so like I like them. So like a lot of vampire movies, I don't mind. Some what's the other the zombie movies? Some of the zombie movies are not. I don't hate them. Um, the ones that just kind of creep me out are like the demonic stuff. They really kind of I don't get into that, and some of the slasher stuff too. Like I just yeah. Anyway,
Gotcha.
we'll move. I've said this before, but for all the new listeners or whatever, I've had too many experiences with the actual demonic realm. I just don't want to cross the street to meet another one. And whenever I feel that presence, I just shut off the source of it. Anyway.
Number one dude says My Bodyguard with Chris Makepeace. Yes, we were talking about that movie earlier, but yes, wonderful film. Wonderful film.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome.
Lisa Fields is
Lisa.
in the house. I was hoping Lisa
Awesome.
would make it tonight. She says, "Hi,
Awesome,
guys."
Lisa. How you doing, Lisa? Glad to have you here.
Let's see. Ooh, one I had totally forgotten. Duperplex says, "Desperately Seeking Susan."
Yeah, solid movie. Loved. Loved the actress. What's her name?
Oh well,
Forgot her name.
Madonna
Well,
and Rosanna
Madonna. Yeah,
Arquette plays
Arquette.
the other one,
Yes, the
and
Ar
I thought
the
they were amazing
Arquette
together.
the Arquette family. Yeah, they had a recent tragedy a while back. Do you know? Yeah,
Her brother,
yeah, her brother. Did you know that they
who
were
was,
raised in a cult? By the way, did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, they were raised in the Children of God cult. There's
No kid,
even
I
a
did not
yeah,
know that.
there is a not about them specifically, but on Netflix there's a Children of God um, um, d- documentary. It's actually really
Oh,
good. Yeah, it's
really?
yep, yep. You look up Children of yeah, they were raised as far as I know they were. So, all right, well,
Wow. And of course,
but
one of Dave's favorite videos by the Tubes, "She's a Beauty." The boy in it that they book in, the one who goes into the show on the roller coaster thingy, that was her brother.
wow, cool.
Mm.
Well, well, her brother was also in that Adam Sandler movie,
Wedding Singer,
Wedding Singer. Yes,
my favorite Adam Sandler movie. It's
mine
not
too.
quite, yeah. It's not as funny as some of his other ones, but he plays a real person,
I actually really love that movie quite a bit.
and the chemistry between him and Drew Barrymore.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
they're always great together, but I thought they were amazing in that movie. And of course, how can when the climactic scene involves Billy Idol being a hero, how can you not love this movie?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's an awesome
It's my
movie.
favorite Adam Sandler
I
movie.
liked their newer one too, where they go to Africa.
Haven't
Did
seen
you,
that one.
that it's good, man. Seriously, you have to check it out. I forgot the name of it. But the one where they go to Africa, I know that kind of 51st States, you're thinking, oh, maybe can they pull this off? They pull it off. I mean, it's the chemistry is great and everything.
I wish they had gotten Adam Sandler. I know he wanted too much money. I wish they had gotten Adam Sandler to do Fever Pitch, because Adam
Oh,
Sandler is a New Englander. He was a Red Sox fan.
uh-huh.
So the movie would have made so much more sense if you had gotten him for
Hang
that
on.
movie, and I think they would have been great together. But
All right, sorry for a second. I'm going to mute myself. Go ahead.
I'll keep it going while you take care of Cerberus. Let's see. Who let the dogs out? Sorry, I couldn't resist. Let's see. Skipping down
I
to
yelled at them, which always works,
it
right?
does.
So maybe you won't hear them anymore.
Well, it's quite all right. They're just puppies having fun. Oh,
Yeah.
Trathos Myers says, I loved Repo Man. You see, that's
Yes.
another point
I
of
know.
similarity. But
Yeah.
yes, I truly feel it's the quintessential 80s movies. It's as far as the spirit, just the way people talk and act with each other, and the vibe, and and every time I watch that movie, I find something different in it. I'm like, oh, I never noticed that Miller did this, and I never know. Like, oh, there's one right there. I was rewatching it recently, and the three of the main supporting characters, his mentors, his gurus, are all named after the beers.
Yes.
There's Bud,
Bud
Miller,
Light.
and Light,
Yeah.
and I'm like, how did I never notice that before? Of
I
course,
watched a
I didn't drink
show
beer when
on.
I watched it.
Did
Mhm.
you have you ever heard of? I know I've told you about her before, but Richter is her last name. Gosh, I'm forget spacing her name, but she does when Gen X rolled the multiplex, and she starts with that's the first one she starts with was Repo Man, and it's really good. But she goes through that. Her take on that is excellent.
When
Richter,
Gen X
Morgan Richter is her name. Yes,
when
I
Gen X
asked her.
ruled the multiplex, I
Yeah,
love
when
that
Gen
title.
X rolled the multiplex,
I love the
and
title.
she goes through 100 movies that define the. She says 100 movies that define the MTV generation. She gives really great synopsis and analysis of those films.
I will have to check it out. Oh, Lance Chafin says Space Hunter. Yes, it was Space Hunter Adventures in the Forbidden Zone,
Adventures in the yes,
if I remember correctly. And you know who played the bad guy in that?
yep,
For you ER fans out there, or for the miniseries V, Michael Ironside
yeah.
was the villain. Excellent. Oh, Daryl Johnson says Battle Beyond the Stars. Loved Battle Beyond the
I don't even
Stars.
know what this is. Battle Beyond the Stars.
You never saw Battle
Really?
Beyond the Stars?
I've never
Ba-
even heard of Battle Beyond the Stars.
Oh, are
I'm a
you in
dum
for a
dum.
treat? Are
I'm
you
looking
in for?
up now.
Yeah, please do. I'll bet I'll give you a better synopsis than the internet will. It's a Roger Corman classic. It's one of the three movies based on Seven Samurai. I'll give a cookie to anyone who could name the other two, but it's
We
John
have
Boy.
we
Go ahead.
talked about this before, actually.
We sure have.
We did.
Um,
I remember because now you said that you made that analysis. So yeah, I'll watch it.
please
Go
do
ahead.
it. It's a great movie. John Saxon plays the villain. It has an amazing cast. Richard Thomas, John Boy from the Waltons, plays the hero, but there's a number of great supporting characters, and it's just such a fun flick. I highly recommend. Oh, and of course, um, Napoleon Dynamite. um, the guy from the man from Uncle, Robert Vaughn.
Mm,
Robert Vaughn actually is in both, and he effectively plays the same character in both movies.
cool.
Um, Skip Rock Jr. says best 80s movie is Naked Gun from the Files of Police Squad.
Love Naked Gun. Love the Naked Gun file from Files of the Police Squad. Love 1, 2.5, and 33 and a third. They were all great.
Were
33 and a
you
third. Go ahead.
were you too young to remember the TV show? Do you remember the TV show?
No, well, I remember the TV show, but I remember it because of of the movies. And then you go back and you oh, it's from a TV show. So no, I didn't watch it when the TV show came out. So
I remember the TV show first. I want to say it was in '82.
yeah.
And Spencer Milligan does do an episode, by the way. But
Mm,
it was such a funny show. In fact, it was too funny. It was canceled after like 6 episodes,
mm.
and it fell off the face of the earth for a while. And people were outraged because they go, "It's such a great show. Why'd you cancel?" We actually found out the network canceled it because it required people to pay so much attention to it. They couldn't just sit back and veg and watch primetime TV like they normally did.
Yeah.
So they weren't getting half the jokes. So they go, why are we giving them this really intense show if they're not going to watch it?
Yeah.
And it was canceled. And I go, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You canceled a show because it was too funny.
Because people it required people to pay attention. Arrested Development fell under that same problem. Arrested Development was way all the callbacks, and it really requires almost the at least up to the when you're getting DVD series of DVDs because then you can follow all the jokes all the way through and all the little callbacks and quipbacks and everything. And they actually think that that was one of the reasons why Arrested Development only lasted 3 seasons originally. It required people to pay attention. Were you Arrested Development fan or no?
I watched it right up against something else I used to watch, but I did
Oh,
watch it. Not
oh,
religiously. And people
I
said, yeah, that you had to watch it religiously.
I am such an Arrested. I mean, it's so worth it. It's on Netflix. It's free. The first 3 seasons are gold. You will not watch better stuff on television. I mean, it is literally up there for me. I don't talk about it a whole lot because it's past it's into the 2000s, which I try to end around at 90 with this show. But it is literally up there with Friends, The Office, and Arrested Development. I mean, and Family Ties. I mean, I am not kidding. It is that good of a show. And when you watch it and you watch it straight through, it's super ahead of its time. The jokes just fly at you. They developed characters then that is in every show now.
Really?
There's all okay. So one character that's in a lot of shows, a lot of modern comedy, is the guy who is like gay, but he doesn't say he's gay and doesn't want to admit he's gay, but he's always making these like gay jokes kind of a thing, like skirting the edge and like, well, I wonder what that pickle tastes like, like, you know what I mean? Like all these double entendres. They were doing that way before with Tobias Funke. I mean, it's such a good show. I cannot recommend it enough. And I've gone on for it for a while now. But the other thing, sorry, the other thing about this, the Naked Gun, you and I have got to do a parody compilation, our favorite parodies.
Okay, I'm in.
Yeah, and we can
I'm in.
include
Love it. Love it.
Weird Al too. You know what I mean? So anything that's a parody of growing up Gen X.
Oh, that's because you got the pretty much well, yeah, like Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, the Airplane movies. I mean, there's any number of things. So yeah, I'm in. I'm in.
Yeah.
Oh, look who's here!
BK on the
BK on the
air.
air.
All right,
Battle in the
man.
Stars, great early soundtrack by James Horner.
Mm. Yeah. All
Terrell
right.
Barringer says, in retrospect,
Well,
Fast
I
Time.
just wanted to say I was just talking about BK because I'm going to have him on the show soon. So I sent him an email not long ago, and I'm just waiting for him to respond. And I'm so excited. And like I said again, if you've not checked his podcast, please do so. It is well worth your time. Go ahead. Sorry.
Terrell Bellinger is in the house as
How you
well.
doing,
Hello,
Terrell?
Terrell. Says, in retrospect, Fast Times at Ridgemont High really helped kickstart the 80s teen movie craze. If it wasn't for that movie, there would be no John Hughes.
Mm, yeah, I would say it would feed into that to a degree. I think there's some truth in that. Um, bring that comment back up if you can. Sorry,
Oh, of
can you bring
course.
it back up again? Um, I I want to say that kind of though John Hughes had already done Vacation, which was a similar movie but really distinct from a Fast Times at Ridgemont High kind of a film. So I don't know if there'd be no John Hughes. We would just maybe see a different emanation of him. And for me as well, you might be right. I mean, I'm not arguing the point. You might be right, but for me as well, um, yes, you look at John Hughes' films, 16 Candles and Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and you can draw these similarities. But I would say that one of the very distinct differences is there was always a tone of of underscored seriousness in John Hughes films of that era that you don't find in something like Fast Times at Ridgemont High. My opinion.
I'll buy that. Oh, John H. in the house. Hey, John.
Hey, John.
He says John Belushi filmed an opening where he died, but he died in real life before it could be aired. I'm assuming you're talking about in the opening of Police Squad. The guest star always dies.
Yeah, yeah.
Never been sequel. Tragic. I have another little factoid about John Belushi and his untimely passing. There was a bit they were doing in one of the incarnations of Saturday Night Live while he was still on it, where giant lobsters were taking over the Northeast. And in the closing segment, when they were saying about everyone, the giant lobsters attack the set and starts eating the cast. There's one scene where a giant claw comes down and takes out John Belushi. And the guest host at the time, I believe it was Robert Klein, he looks at the camera and says, "Oh my God, people, John Belushi is dead. He had so many good years left. Well, at least two." He died almost exactly 2 years
Oh my
after
gosh.
that episode aired. It was like crazy.
Hmm.
One of my favorite little factoids about his passing. And let's see. Oh, Joe Black's in the house. Hello, Joe.
Hi. Hey, Joe.
Billy Idol's not scared of anybody. I'm a witness. Love it.
Uh,
Love it. Let's see what
I
else
don't
we
know what
got
to
here.
say to that. I don't quite get it.
Oh, it's I believe it's a reference to The Wedding Singer when
Yeah.
Adam Sandler needs somebody to watch his back. I believe
Right.
that's a
Right.
line from there. Yeah,
Oh,
because
okay. All right. Yeah.
because remember the bully. She's going to marry the bully,
Yeah.
and he had already gotten his butt kicked by him once before, and
Yeah. Yeah.
so let's go with that.
Okay. All right.
Oh, Zublik says, but Tracy, did Repo Man have a soundtrack? It actually does have a soundtrack. I actually have a copy of it somewhere, and it's an actual amazing soundtrack.
That's interesting. It's really cool.
Amazing soundtrack. Oh, Zublik says, Cerebus, that was funny. When you hit mute to go placate your puppies,
Yeah.
I said, yes, go talk to Cerberus.
Oh, hilarious. All right.
Let's see what else we got here. Lot of people being very interactive tonight. Ooh, Hungry Jerk says John Bonham once beat the tar out of Billy Idol. He was a little punk. Wow.
Wow,
I never heard that
interesting.
story before.
I haven't either. That's cool though.
Elisa Field says, not Madonna brother, Patricia Arquette brother. Did I say Madonna's brother? I
Oh,
certainly meant Patricia Arquette.
yeah, yeah.
Well, Roseanne Arquette, Patricia Arquette, and I'm a little ashamed I can't think of the brother's name.
I don't
It's
remember.
an Arquette, but
Yeah.
David Arquette. That
Yeah,
sounds right.
well, David Arquette was I think that is a family member, isn't it? That's the guy that married Courtney Cox.
Cox. That's why it sounds familiar. Very
Mm,
sorry, David. Don't need to confuse you. It was a very big family. In fact, there was someone else who was related to them that came up recently. It was like a trivia question or something.
mm.
And oh, look who's here!
Oh, hey, brother.
Golden
Glad to
Rage
have
of
you in the house.
TV. Bye, gang. Rock on NC. Rock on. And oh, he's already left. Well,
Oh,
hello, goodbye, Pat. Sorry you couldn't stick around.
sorry. Glad you could
Oh,
drop in though. Thank you very much.
BK on the Air. Dracula 1979 was a great film starring Frank Langella, directed by John Badham. Soundtrack score by John Williams. I remember that one.
Yeah, I do too. I was really into Dracula at the time. I remember really wanting to see it. I'm not sure I got to see it when it came out because I was in '79. I would have been like, I don't know, 9 or something like that. No, no, something like that. Anyway, I can't do math. Not my strong suit. But
What year were you
yeah.
born? What year were
Oh,
you born again?
73.
All right, so you were 6.
Yeah, so I was 6 years old when that came out. But I do remember thinking it was cool. Mostly just because he had a cape. Because
Well,
I was into anything that had a cape I thought was cool. So, I mean, Dracula's obviously cool.
Frank Langella is great. He was always great in anything he did. He just had that presence. But oh, Cindy D says I liked Anthony Edwards and Meg Ryan's character in Top Guns better than Tom's.
I'll
I
take your word for it. I think you're probably right on that. Like I said,
I'm
I was
sorry.
just watching Hot Shots,
Mm.
and the girl who plays the parody of Meg Ryan's character in there is so funny. She's like, "Oh, I just got this bonus at Christmas, and we'll spend it when you get back." And it was, anyway, that's such a funny show. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was just saying I did not mean for this show to turn into an anti Tom Cruise
Well, I'm not. I love Tom.
crusade.
I love Tom Cruise. I
Well, that's why I'm
really like.
apologizing because it
Uh,
seems we're getting all these people coming out of the woodwork in the credits saying, "Yeah, he sucks." You
I
know?
know people don't like him. It's okay though with me if you don't like him. I mean, I just know that people don't like him, but I actually really do. I like much of what he did, what he does too. So anyway, go on.
And
Let's
he's
see.
actually done some very nice things for people, by the way. He's done lots for since the COVID thing hit. He's done a lot for the care and well-being of people who work in the film industry. He's championed their cause so that they can't be exploited and forced into unhealthy work conditions, which only a few years ago they would have been forced into. Uh,
Yikes.
so I gotta say I probably shouldn't bash on them as much as I do. Um, oh, Terrell Bellinger asks a good one. Terrell Eugene Bellinger says, "What's your favorite Wayne's World skit on SNL?"
Well, let me be. Hmm. I'd have to think about that. I mean, I think that um, that would be a tough one to choose. I was a big Wayne's World fan on SNL when it came out, and I liked the movies. But by the time by the time the first movie was kind of getting over, I was kind of getting out of that kind of music, so I didn't really keep my ear to the ground on it a whole lot. But when it came out on SNL, I thought it was great. So it's hard for me to choose. Sorry, I can't choose.
I like the one with Aerosmith
Hmm.
because I always had a feeling that the whole thing was impromptu, and the fact that Aerosmith members at the time were clean and sober, and Wayne and Garth start making fun of them. Oh, like, oh yeah, right, you're off the stuff, and they start getting like a little defensive, like it was a real interview. They go, "Yes, it's true, we're clean and sober," and of course, I won't point fingers, but some of them fell off the wagon not long after the show aired. So it was this very sort of bizarre, almost surreal thing where they were actually getting like a bit righteous over the matter, and then of course, well, it just you have to watch it and see. It had a very just bizarre feel to it. So that was probably my favorite.
Right on.
Let's see. Oh, Kevin Davis says they should reboot Buck Rogers.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think Buck Rogers would do really good on a reboot. There's certain things out there. I mean, I know that everybody doesn't like remakes and reboots and stuff like that. And of course, there's a lot of reason to not like them. And I agree with a lot of those reasons. However, there are certain ones I think deserve a reboot because the story's so good. And there was a time where the special effects wasn't as good as the story. And I think maybe that's the only time that I'm all good with a reboot. Where it's a great story and just the special effects for the time could not keep up with it. So I think Buck Rogers would be awesome. Although the imperfection of that is somewhat endearing as also. I mean, there is a sense of nostalgia when you look back at a show that had notoriously bad um, uh, effects. But I just can't. I I always like it when they do it right, and I think they could do Buck Rogers right.
I've always wished they would do it, but keep it set within the same zeitgeist. I mean, yes, you can do modern effects that look more convincing. That's fine, and maybe not have it be quite so melodramatic,
Yeah.
but keep it with that same old school flavor. I mean, there's a lot of really amazing vintage science fiction out there that is kind of gone away because, well, we know more about science than we did 60, 70 years ago. So we try to update the science. But Brian Aldiss has a great line. He says, science fiction is no more written. Well, I've already blown it. It says, science fiction is no more written for scientists than ghost stories are written for ghosts. I mean, what made the old school vintage science fiction so endearing is the fact that it didn't force the science down our throat. We could just enjoy a good story. And I would love to see rebuilds of things like Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers and that type of thing in a modern sense. But keep it again in that same period piece fashion. Hey, if it worked for Downton Abbey, it could work for Buck Rogers.
For sure, for sure. What do we got next?
Let's see. Let's see. Um Oh, speaking of vintage sci-fi, Hungry Jerk says reboot Man from Atlantis, a serious version.
That would be cool. That would be really cool. I could see that totally.
Superblick says the musical version of Little Shop of Horrors.
Not a fan. Not a
I
fan.
love that movie. I'm sorry.
Oh, did you like the movie?
Yeah.
It might have been too grown up for me. I mean, it just might have been a little too wry for me. If you know what I mean. Go
Well,
ahead.
I loved the black and white Roger Corman farce. That is possibly my favorite, particularly Dick Miller as the plantivore, who actually eats flowers. But I did like the musical.
All right.
Oh,
Sorry, I just wanted to get that John Collins one up because.
please.
Go ahead, and then I'll take it down.
John Collins says, I saw that special about Naomi Judd. They celebrated her life. It was crushing because you could see points where they were trapped between expressing humanity and wanting to put a good performance.
Oh man, that just says a lot right there, brother. Seriously.
Very, very sad. Very, very tragic.
Yes, for sure.
My heart goes out to the family, by the way.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what they're going through. Well, actually, I know what they're going through from a personal experience. I can't imagine what they're going through from their own experience because it's different for every single person. But
Right.
my heart goes out to them.
All right.
Ooh, that kind of brought down the house, didn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Let's get on. Like in the beginning, we were talking about the Buffalo shooting and how I was trying
I
to
know
lighten the mood.
it's been a shockingly somber night, guys. I'm so sorry. Usually I try to keep it all fun and fun, but this one.
Well, it's okay though. Sometimes it's not supposed to be fun.
Hungry Jerk says love Roger Corman and William Castle films. As do I. As do
You're gonna
I.
have
They
to
were
fill me in on this. I'm not that smart.
well. Roger Corman did a lot of the. He started out. He's still around today, but he hasn't made a movie in a while. But he started out doing those schlocky, low-budget science fiction films. You probably saw a lot of them on Creature Feature and those type of Saturday matinees on TV.
Hmm.
It Conquered the World. Um, uh, it's probably my favorite. I actually do another one on my one of my two for Tuesdays, the post-apocalyptic one. Take my word for it. But he as he got bigger budgets, he actually did that Battle Beyond the Stars we were talking about later. And William Castle did horror films, gimmicky horror films. He was the one he would actually to try to create spin around his movies. He would actually have. He was the one he had that. He would have a nurse selling life insurance policies if you died of a heart attack while watching the film, and it sort of created a buzz and got people to go watching it. He created something called Expandivision, where during a scene in a movie where a dancing skeleton comes out and attacks a girl, a skeleton pops off the screen and goes right into the audience.
Oh wow.
Expandivision. So yeah, he was the sort of horror impresario. Mant, with John Goodman, I want to say about 30 years ago, is loosely based on his exploits.
Right on.
And Terrell Ballinger says, "Do you think that the popularity of Married with Children helped pave the way for sitcoms that would go on to dominate the Fox network for the better part of the '90s?" Definitely.
Absolutely.
De-
Absolutely.
Married with Children was a game changer.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I mean, and they meant to be a game changer. They started out we're going to be the anti-Huxtables, so it was great. It was part of why I think it was part of why we knew the '90s was changing in a significant way. I've heard it said before that really the decade isn't defined till 3 or 4 years after the decade starts. Like if you go to 90, if you go to 81, 1980, 1981, you're still really having a lot of carryover from the '70s. It doesn't really become the '80s as we see it iconically until like '82, '83. But '90s were different that way, and I think that we didn't know what was going to change, but we knew like it was going to be a sharp change. And there was a sharp change in music, and this brought about, I think, the sharp change in television. Just the anti, it becomes the anti, as I said this before, issue shows in the '90s. We're not doing issues anymore. We're not going to talk about how Grandpa Papalopoulos can't read. We're not going to talk about who's got AIDS. We're just going to have fun and make fun of each other. Anyway, so yeah, loved it. Go ahead.
Superplex says, Ian C., your opinions and on Yentl. Papa, can you hear me?
Well, I mean, it's a beautiful song for sure. I love Yentl the movie. I mean, it's not like I've seen it a whole lot, but I mean, I know about it, and I think it was really cool. Um,
She was too old to play that part.
was she? Yeah.
That's actually a line from what was that movie? The movie about Kevin Kline,
Huh.
where he's about to get married and they want him to come out of the closet and he doesn't believe that he's in it. But in it, not in and out, but that's all I can think of. But there's a great scene where he's having a bachelor party and they get Yentl for the bachelor party. And he's like, "Oh, guys, come on! What's this? What's this?" And his friend says, "Yeah, I know. Who wants to watch that dumb movie?" And Kevin Kline goes, "What did you say?" "Well, I just said who wants to watch that dumb movie." "Say it again." And the guy goes, "She was too old to play that part." And they go into this brawl. It's one of the funniest scenes in like cinema history. It's very, very funny.
Great.
But
That's
let's see.
awesome.
Oh, I was right. Thank you, Lisa. It was In and Out. Huh, that just didn't sound right to me, but thank you.
About what?
Oh, the name of the movie with Kevin Kline.
Oh, okay.
And Kevin Kline. There were a bunch of people in it. It's a very funny movie. I saw it years ago.
Yeah.
And let's see what else we got. Oh, Dale Johnson says The Blob. I assume you mean the remake from 1989.
Never saw it. Never saw it. Did you see it?
Oh yeah, I thought. Well, the original with Steve McQueen is one of my favorite sci-fi movies. In fact, Mr. McGill at the Unapologetic Geek did a fantastic retrospect on it.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's one of my favorite films, and they did a remake in the '80s um, with Shawnee Smith, I believe her name is, and Kevin Dillon.
Yep, Kevin Dillon was in
Kevin
it.
Dillon, and it's pretty good. They tried to ratchet up the action, and it detracted from the story,
Mm.
as happens so often the case, in my opinion. But it wasn't a bad flick at all.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get to see it. I know that I wanted to see it because I remember the trailers for it, and I also remember Dillon doing interviews for that show on around different on different places to try to promote it. One of the places he did it that I remember from was there was on Nickelodeon. There was a movie review show, and I think it had um, Leonard Nimoy was the host of it. Do you remember that?
There's a bell ringing in my head. I can't quite place it, but I do
Yeah,
remember. Yeah,
and
I remember the film review show.
I could totally be off base, but I remember the Blob him doing a review of the Blob and Kevin Dillon talking about it, at some point. So it's a memory I might be splicing two of those together, but long story short, long story longer, the Blob, I didn't get to see it. I mean, I could see it now, I guess.
But it wasn't great, and I still say the original was better. But isn't it always?
Yeah.
They've been talking about doing a reboot for years,
Yeah.
but another one, another remake. But again, why bother?
Mhm.
Let's see what else we got. Oh, Daryl Johnson says, Ian, I love issue episodes.
With exclamation points, I guess, because I talk so
Points.
much about it that well, I mean, I would love issue episodes if not every episode was an issue episode. I
Well
mean,
said.
it's I mean, like when it's kind of like a special episode or something like that, but it's no longer special. If every episode, if you look at, like, I don't know, like, shows throughout the 80s, especially sitcoms and even beyond sitcoms, but so like all the family shows, Family Ties, um Growing Pains, Mr. Belvedere, other shows, Facts of Life, um yeah, you name it, you name it. Every show was about, racism, don't do drugs, stay in school. But yeah, I mean, so it becomes it there's no issues. If everything's an issue, then there's no issues. And they would layer it so that one person would have an episode on racism, and then the next show would have an episode on racism, and then the next show would have an episode on so for me, um that's why I say it. I mean, that's why I bring it up. That's why the book that I am going to be working on, I am going to be putting my effort into this very soon here, is Mr. Belvedere Taught Me About AIDS and Other Things I Learned from Watching TV. And I got the outline of it already done, and I'm going to be working on it. So go ahead. Sorry, I know that was a long rant.
Well, all I wanted to add was in support of what you were saying, and you were 100% right. Quantum Leap fell into that problem. The last season of Quantum Leap is every single week. They're like, and this week, a special episode of Quantum Leap. Well, if they're all special, then none of them are special. In The Simpsons, there's a very funny line where Bart picks up a copy of Mad Magazine and goes, a Mad Magazine special edition. There's only 14 of those a year. There's only 12 months in a year. How can you have 14 special editions of a monthly magazine? But that's what I
Right.
was getting. Everything had to be special, and it minimalized it.
Mhm.
And but again, some of those special episodes were pretty darn good. So I mean, I certainly see where he was getting at. Oh, Darrell Johnson says, "Beware of the Blob song." I just found this out, and this is on the Unapologetic Geeks retrospect. Do you know who sang that really catchy song for the Blob?
No idea.
A very young, Are You Sitting Down? Burt Bacharach.
Oh, really?
I know. I'm like, really? All these years, and I never, ever knew that.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. Azurblick says Cheers was an anti-message comedy series. They never had a special episode. The only thing that came closest to that was the one where Sam started drinking again. And it became sort of an
Mhm.
anti-alcoholism show, but it was still set in a bar. So
Yeah, that so a show like Cheers, you could have a special episode now and again, and it wouldn't bother me as much. Uh, I gotta say, I mean, I do have to say that I still love these shows. I mean, I still watch them as much as I
uh,
complain about them. I still watch them. But Cheers was a comedy soap opera at night. It followed the career of Dan and Diane and the bar people and stuff like that. It was
Sam
more
and
like
Diane.
yes. What did I say? Dan. Oh yeah,
Daniel.
Sam and Diane. Sorry about that. Um, anyway, so what was I getting at? I lost my train of thought there for a second. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't Cheers was an anti-message comedy. I don't even think it was anti-message. I just think it was just a comedy that
Yeah,
wasn't pushing a message.
they never did messages.
They didn't need to. Family Ties are different strokes. On the other hand, every episode's got to be, that it's an episode within itself. That's why when it goes in reruns, like you don't know where it is because there's no connection. Where if you watch Cheers, there's a connection between where Sam is, with Diane and where they're not. You can kind of see that connection going through every episode of Different Strokes. You could literally take it out and put it at the end, and you wouldn't know. You know. So anyway, go on. Other than the age of the actors.
So I know, really, really. So no, but I think that kind of puts the on that one.
All right. Well
Darrell
said.
Johnson says, "No messages, no Polly Shore." Ooh.
Ooh, no messages, no Polly Shore.
Anyway, so I think that pretty much says it
Let's
all.
let's
Otto Eugene Burgess says, I do remember the infamous, very special episode of Saved by the Bell where Jesse became addicted to caffeine pills and had a meltdown singing the Pointer Sisters song. I'm
I'm
so
so
excited.
excited. Have you seen on YouTube it's actually a thing called a very special episode?
I have not.
Oh yeah, it's hilarious. And they go through all these episodes. They do go through the one where the Tanner daughter is trying to lose weight and so she starves herself.
Mhm.
Uh anyway,
Huh.
yeah, it's a very special episode. They got some cussing in them though, just a heads up.
Check.
Um yeah, I remember the very special episode of Saved by the Bell. Yeah, I totally remember that.
So, let's
Let's
see what else.
do let's do one more, and then we're
More.
gonna start calling it an evening. I do have some things I got to take care of here.
Of course. John Cohen says, I strongly, strongly dislike laugh tracks. I don't like being told when or at what point I should laugh. I
Yeah,
would hope that producers respect their audience enough to know that we know when to laugh.
yeah, I like the studio audience better. When it's actual, but even the studio audience is prompted to laugh.
But no, I agree.
Well, hey folks, this has been an awesome hangout. We've been doing this for almost an hour and 40 minutes.
It
I just
flew
want
by
to
tonight. It really
I
did.
know. And please like, comment, subscribe, share, 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 share. Just think of the recording artist share and share this on your favorite social media, our platform of medias. If you want to give, there's a couple ways you can give. You can give to our Patreon page, as you know, but there's also our Venmo page, which is at singularity underscore productions if you like Venmoing. And I am working on getting a PayPal set up as well because I know that there have been contacts for me to say, hey, if we had a way to pay you just one time, we would do that rather than just monthly. So I'm trying to get that worked out so that people could do that if they feel like supporting the show. Um, what do you got going on over at your channel, Thrash?
Well, I just posted a new video today. It was a virtual electronic birthday card to my little niece who just turned 2 today. And I want to thank all you folks who actually posted happy birthday to her as well in the comment section. I thought that was very, very, very nice. And that was the only content I have so far this week. I do have some more coming up soon. I just had my second live chat. It went very, very, very well. Thank you, all of you who joined. It was my pleasure. And again, I'm sticking with the current projects. I'm compiling a new list of the worst down jokes that money could buy. I have some cute things coming up for Wretched Recaps. And Dan and I are compiling information for our upcoming collaboration, which we just talked about on Dave's live stream last week.
Cool. Right on. Right on. And I just got done filming 3 traits of heavy metal. And so I'm going to put that together hopefully tomorrow. And I just got confirmation I'm going to be interviewing BK from BK on the Air tomorrow night. So he said it's going to be all good. So that's going to be awesome. And hopefully I'll be able to talk him into being on the show the next Monday after that. So you'll be able to ask him questions and he'll join us live as well as in an in studio, or not an in studio, but an in Zoom meeting. So you get both of those. All right, folks. Hey, thank you so much. You guys really mean the world to me. I say it every week and I mean it every week. And that meaning doesn't diminish at all, not one little bit. It's been awesome to be hanging out with you and talking about this stuff. I'll be seeing you guys real soon. Take care. Good night.
Not everyone.